Welcome to Papamutes, everybody. Today, my guest is Mark Travis. Mark is a director, writer, actor, consultant. Mark is regarded by international professionals as the world's leading authority in the art and craft of film directing, also the creator of the Travis Technique. Mark, welcome to Papamutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Papa Mutes, and it's wonderful to be here with you.
Now, you're in Hawaii, so I have to, cut to the chase. How's the
Yeah.
weather?
How-
I mean,
how's-
important stuff here.
well, this is going to sound boring. It's the same. It's sunny. It's about 70 some degrees out there, and the sun is shining, and the beach is beautiful, and it's pretty much the same all year round. It doesn't change that much here.
I feel bad
So
for
it's
you.
it's it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Now,
And
is it, I
then,
mean, is it humid? I mean, or no?
oh yeah, it's humid. I
Oh,
mean, it's tropical. It's not Florida. Florida is it's somewhat humid, but it's very, very tropical. It's very humid. So a lot of people who come here have to get used to the humidity. Or like when I go back to LA, I have to get used to the dryness in LA because that's desert, and it's you can feel it, but it's humid. But that's good. Humidity is good for the skin. It's good for the health and everything.
rather be warm than cold, that's for sure.
Yep.
So, uh, what is, before we go into like backstories, what is the
Yeah.
Travis technique?
Well, that's a great question. The term, the Travis technique, over my years of doing this work has been applied to a lot of different things. Now it's applied to everything I do. Um, so it's a combination, really, of many, many techniques that I have developed or use or have discovered in the art and craft of film directing, filmmaking, which and stepping back a little bit even from that in terms of storytelling. My primary focus is on storytelling. Now then it goes quickly into theater and film and all of that. But the Travis technique is a collection of techniques, primarily working with script, actors, characters, performance, and things like that.
Now, what got you just to backtrack into film way back when? What was your initial, hey, I want to get involved with film or directing or acting because it's not an easy business?
Okay, if you have a moment, I'll tell you an interesting story.
I'm here.
uh, this goes back to my college years, and I was going to Antioch College, which you may not know about, and most of your listeners won't know about it. It's a very progressive college in Ohio. And it's a college that is really set up to help people who don't know what they want to do in their life find a purpose, find a goal. And so, because of that, I got in, because I was really wandering around in terms of what I wanted to do with my life. I had no idea. And one day I was walking across the campus and really thinking, where am I going? What am I going to do? Really in that mood. And I heard a sound. And the sound I heard was the sound of a very sharp saw cutting through wood, that high pierced sound. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my father was an amateur carpenter, more than amateur. He restored houses and things like that, and he taught me how to use all these tools. So this had an emotional connection for me. So I heard that sound, and I said, "Okay, I'm going towards that sound." I went to the sound. I come up upon this big building, and I look inside, and people are in there cutting wood, they're building something. I don't know what they're building, and I'm watching. And someone says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, I'm just curious. I'm watching it." And they said, "Well, do you want to help? We could use some more help." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to," because I sort of knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started helping them. And then eventually, I don't think it was the same day, but eventually they said they were looking at blueprints, and they said, can you read blueprints? Well, I'd been studying architecture and all that, so I could read blueprints. And they said, "Could you build this?" And they showed me a blueprint of a stool, a wooden stool. I said, "Oh yeah, I can build that." They said, "Okay, build that." So I built it. All this building, I was happy. I was really, really happy, Paramount. I was having a great time. I had really not too much of an idea what we were doing. Later, not that much later, I discovered we were building a set for a play. I went, oh, okay. And so I kept working with them, and I helped all the way through the mounting of the set and putting it up and everything like that. And that's what pulled me into the world of theater. And I realized what a wonderful time these people were having in an environment of make-believe, creativity, imagination, and all that. And I was happy there. So I stayed. And then quickly, didn't take long. I helped build a lot of sets. Then I started designing sets. I'd had some background in design and art and architecture. I would design sets and I would build sets. And one day I'm watching a play that I had designed the set for. It was a Brecht play, The Good Woman of Szechuan. And I was watching it, and I'm watching the actors on the stage on my set. And I thought, I think they're having way more fun than I am. So then I decided I will try acting. So I went to auditions and stuff like that. I eventually got into a play, and then I was into a major production they were doing. This is at college, and I was the lead. And I remember one day standing on the set, and we had just run the scene, and the director's sitting out in the audience, and he's giving us notes. And I looked at him, and I thought, he's having way more fun than I am. So then I started pursuing directing. And then once I started pursuing directing, now I kept doing everything I had been doing. I kept designing. I started writing plays. I was acting in plays, and I was directing all the time I was in college. And that's how I got into that world, and finished at college, went to Yale Drama School to study for MFA program. And then after that, eventually found my way to Los Angeles, where I was directing theater, but I was also then moving into film and television. So that's how I got in.
Okay. And you, as I may have mentioned, considered a director's director. So let me ask you this. We'll cut right to the, to the core of it. What should all directors have?
What should all directors
What's the number one thing?
have?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different jobs they have. There's a lot of different, balls they're juggling. But what's one? What do they have to have? One thing.
Well, one thing, I'm going to make it two, but one thing is
It's fine. Amazing.
these will be, the first one will be very obvious: a good sense of story and how story works. In other words, a good background and education and stories. Study stories, study scripts, not just film scripts, any kind of script, any kind of stories. The directors who really understand, either by education or by instinct, how a story works are going to be stronger directors automatically. Second thing is, understand this is where my training comes in and my teaching and consulting comes in. Understand the artistic and psychological techniques of working with actors. Because if you're going to make a film, at the center of your film is going to be people. Usually, there's a few films that there's no people, but they're going to be people, and you're going to have actors playing those people. So, and your job is to not only cast them, but work with them, rehearse with them, and get the performance you need to make the story work. And that process of working with actors is very unique in one way. A director, a film director, and I know this as a director and having worked with a lot of directors, if you don't know, let's say you really don't know much about cameras. You don't. I mean, you know what they do, sort of, but you don't have a lot of experience or background. You'll be fine. Get a good cinematographer, establish a good working relationship, and a good lighting gaffer and all that. In other words, you can be fine because there are people there to help you, because there are other people doing this. The same with sound, the same with costume design, production design. You don't have to know a lot about it. You have to know what you want, pretty much. But in the world of working with actors, and this is almost a joke, if you're on the set and you're not getting the performance you want from that actor, don't think you can turn to somebody else in the crew for help. It won't work. So this is that one part of directing that is totally in the hands of the director. And you'll get, if you're having trouble, people on the crew will just go, I don't know, this is your job, not mine. Not mine. Now you can ask for help with the sound. You can ask for help with the camera. You can ask for help with lots of things, and people will help you. So knowing how to work with actors, how to get performance, and how story works. That's it.
So what do you do, or what do you tell, what would you tell a young director or a director in general who's pretty green? And I mean, some actors, I'm assuming, just like in life, not everyone's pleasant. What do you do with someone who's just I don't know, what's the word, a pompous ass?
Are you talking about actors?
I'm talking about the actor. Now you come in as a young director, and you got to deal with people. You got to be a people person, but some people are a little pompous. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah. Oops,
not everybody's pleasant actor wise.
No, that's true. Now first of all, we have to step back from that a little bit, because if you're saying you're coming in as a young director and you have this problem working with these actors, were you responsible in any way for casting that person? Now, if you're coming into television, very likely not. There's a cast of characters, actors there already you're working with. But if it's an independent film you're making, then you cast that person. Then my first question to the director would be, why did you cast this person? Why? There's got to be a good reason, and you got to know what that reason is. But to get beyond that, one thing is very important. An actor, any actor, regardless of their skills or abilities or even experience, an actor who is problematic, the reason they're problematic is there's a problem. The problem is not the actor. The actor is reacting to a problem. He may be feeling insecure. He may be feeling unsupported. He may be frightened of the character he's about to play, or the scene or there could be personal things going on. Your job as a director working with actors, half of your job is psychological, is understanding human behavior. You could have a problematic director who's been a sweetheart for the past week, and suddenly he's a problem. And now you've got a problem, and you've got to help that person get past those problems and get to the work that has to be done that day, and hopefully do a decent enough job. So it's many times the problem is the director, and many times, to make it even worse, the problem is the director only blaming the actor as being the problem and not seeing that he or the situation or there are other things, circumstances that are going on that are creating that problem.
So you could have, on the flip side of the coin, you could have an actor he's green or she's green, a little nervous. You got to,
absolutely
push them through, get past that. Maybe they're acting with someone who's not famous, but more famous than they are, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now they're nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. My ex-wife she's been in a lot of television and all that. And she was in one TV show where in one scene, she had one line in the middle of a big chaotic scene, one line. Now that's a horrible situation for an actor. And and she was having trouble with it. Just delivering that one line, just the way they wanted it. And the director, unfortunately, kept getting angrier and angrier at her. Like, why can't you just do it? Not understanding why an accomplished actress would be having trouble with one line, which brings up another important thing for all the directors out there who are listening now, or want to be directors, or people who are pursuing that career. Do yourself a big favor. Take an acting class.
Makes sense.
Study acting as an actor, and take an acting class, and hopefully you're in there with a lot of good actors, and hopefully you have a good acting teacher. Once you start experiencing what it's like to be an actor, you'll have more appreciation and understanding for what actors are going through. And actors, in many ways, are like horses. A horse, as you know, you get on a horse, the horse knows immediately whether or not you know what you're doing. Actors have the same thing with directors, in terms of not if they know what they're doing in terms of directing the movie, not that at all. if they know what they're doing in terms of working with actors. An actor can smell it in a minute. And so this is something, the best way to do that is learn. Don't pretend. Learn and be humble. Be really, really humble. Drop the arrogance, drop the attitude like, I'm the director, I know what I want. And which gets us, now I'm starting to move into a whole nother territory, but which is judging a performance and what is the correct performance and all that, which can be a huge, huge issue. But for if you look at a lot of top directors that are out there now, for years have been out there, a lot of them worked as actors. A lot of them worked in theater, which is the most difficult place. And the other thing I would say to a lot of young actors, if you really want to learn how to direct actors, don't direct a film, direct a play. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder, but it'll really test you. It'll really test you. Because film, as you know, as everybody knows, you can be shooting that scene and all you need is that scene, that moment, that line in a certain way on film, and you've got it. And in a play, you have to work with those actors and develop the characters and the whole play to the point that it can play every night, 8 times a week. And those actors can keep coming back and more or less repeat what you've been working on. It's a more difficult process. But also, you're going to learn things by directing in theater that will serve you so well directing in film. And if you've been directing theater, the actors know it. They can feel it when they're talking to you. They know. They know by your language, by your attitude and all that. In other words, you have to work on yourself as a director to become a good actor's director.
When you moved to LA, how old were you approximately?
That was back in the early 70s. So I was in my 30s.
And what did you do? I mean, you plopped down and did you have a game plan? Because you
This
hear
is,
about people
well,
going to LA and I'm going to go to LA.
this
I don't have any money in my pocket and I'm going to be
well,
famous.
this is another story. As I told you, I was studying at Yale School of Drama. And on one of the bulletin boards at Yale was a letter from the head of MGM, a guy named Herb Solow, who basically said, any graduates of Yale, if you come to LA, look me up and I'll do what I can to help you, or something like that. One of those. And I saw that and I went, how about that? And after I was finished at Yale, I decided I wanted to go to LA because I wanted to get into film and television. I went to LA. I had no job. I had nothing. I had enough money to survive.
Where'd you live? Did you have a place?
I found a cheap apartment in a very bad part of town. But my goal was to get to MGM where Herb Solow was.
Okay.
And so I started calling immediately. Now I'm calling the head of an entire studio. I'm not just somebody. And of course, I was lucky that I got somewhat close to him. I got to some secretary or someone who said, no, you can't speak to him. But I kept calling. I said, listen, he had this letter. I'm from Yale, blah, 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 thinking that would help. And I kept pursuing it and I kept getting turned down, but I kept at it. I would call every day. And finally, her name was Elizabeth. His assistant, one of his assistants, got on the phone and said, Mark, you've been calling every single day. I said, I know. Okay. What can you do? So then I told her exactly what I want. And she says, well, let me see what I can do. And, call me back on another time. So I called her back a few days later and she says, you have an appointment. I said, really? Great. I thought, well, of course I should. I'm from Yale, blah, blah, blah. I'm a theater director and all that. And he wrote the letter and all that. And I go in there and to meet him, and I go into this huge building, into this. And then I'm ushered into his office by Elizabeth. And she said, just wait right here. And he's in there. He's in the office and he's on the phone. And he's doing it. Was almost a cliche Papamutes, out of a film, the producer on the phone, but this and I'm sitting there going, wow, this is amazing. Huge office, big pictures, big windows, just amazing.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was nervous. I was nervous and excited at the same time. I'm in MGM. I'm the head of MGM's office. I'm in there, basically asking for a job. That's all I'm doing.
Wow.
And then I remember when he got off the phone, he put the phone down and he stared at me and he said, "What the hell do you want with me?" And I said, "Well, this is a good beginning." But he'd heard about this guy that kept calling. And so he knew what I was. So I told him exactly what I wanted. I said, this is what I'm doing. This is my studies, theater, Yale, all that. There was a letter there from you. I'm coming here and I want a job. And he said something like, "Okay, show up here Monday morning at 10 o'clock. I said, "That's it?" Yeah. I had no idea what it was. I came back on Monday morning at 10 o'clock and I had a job working on a TV series, basically as a production assistant.
Okay.
The lowest level. But it was a job and it was a paid job. It wasn't free. It wasn't volunteer.
Was it a popular TV series? Was it
yeah, it was called, they were actually doing several series. They were doing Medical Center. They were doing Then Came Bronson, Courtship of Eddie's Father, all those.
Okay.
And so I suddenly I was in. I had gotten over that threshold. And that's when I started learning the film business and simultaneous film and TV simultaneously, because I had no experience in either of them, and started to learn how my background experience in theater was so different from what was needed in film, but also my background experience in theater was helping me and could help other people in terms of what they were doing. That's when I started to see all those worlds coming together. And since that time, that's the world I've worked in.
Now, how did the Travis Institute and the Travis technique come about?
In the early 90s, this is a much longer story, so we won't get into it, but if you want to do it at another time, I directed my first feature film for Warner Brothers, different studio. And how I got that job, long story. And the film did not do well. That's another long story, interesting story. But it came out, it did not do well. So I was, for a while, I had the period of time, I was a young hot director because I was directing something for Warner Brothers, and it was not a big budget. It's like a $9 million movie, but it's a movie. It's Warner Brothers, all that.
Now, how did you? Excuse me for interrupting, but how'd you get that job?
Well, that's the long story. You want how much time it? I mean,
condense it. I mean, like, did they pick you and say, "Let's try this guy," or did you apply? I don't know how it works.
No,
how it worked back then.
I'll try to make it as short as possible.
Okay.
One of the things I was involved in that time and still am is working with actors developing one-person shows, which I'm very, very good at. At that time, one of the shows that I had created with the actor called A Bronx Tale. It was running in Los Angeles. It was hot. All the studios wanted it. Now, because of the studios wanting it, and because Chaz Palminteri, the actor, and I decided we're not going to sell it. We're not going to sell it yet. We're holding back, which was a smart thing to do. So the studios just wanted to get to us. And so it was very easy for me to get an appointment at a major studio because they wanted to talk about Bronx Tale, which I would talk to them about it, but I wouldn't give in to what they wanted. Anyways, so that's part of the energy. Meanwhile, two other people had come to me. They're now new friends, writer producers, with this script that they were trying to get made as an independent film. Or on a pickup deal with a studio. And so I could get into a studio and get an appointment to talk about that script, knowing I'm going to have to talk about Bronx Tale at the beginning. But then, so I was in the door. And because of that, and because of the strength of Bronx Tale, they never questioned me directing it. They said, "Yep, you can do this." And almost like they were saying, "Give this guy this film, but we still want to try to get Bronx Tale." So it's a much more complicated story than that and interesting, but that's how I got in, which means my story to any young director out there is not very helpful, except if you create something that generates a lot of interest from the studio. Now, I had created a one-man show, which eventually became a film and a Broadway show and all that. But if you have created something that'll attract their attention, now you're in. Now you're in. It's not just, oh, I got a great script and send it in. You and 10,000 other people are sending in scripts. You and 10,000 other people are writing letters. The way to get their attention is to do something, create something that they want, that they probably can't have, or only one of them can have, something like so. But that's, it's not, it's a way. That was not my plan at all. That's just the way things worked out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, A Bronx Tale is one of my favorite movies. I've never seen the one-man show that Chaz has. But when did you, just briefly, when did you first meet Chaz Palminteri? How'd that come about?
Well, at that time, this is all about the same time, same bunch of decade. At that time, I was a member of a theater in Los Angeles called Theater West. It's a membership theater. And I was the artistic moderator, which means we would do acting workshops and stuff like that. And I would moderate the workshop. And it's I'm not the artistic director, but I'm working with a lot of actors there. And while I'm working with there, we were also doing auditions. And I remember the time Chaz came to audition to become a member of the company. And
this time he's not known, right?
He's not known at all. Not at all. Nothing. But when I say nothing, I mean, that's where a lot of actors are at some point.
Sure.
Nothing. And he joined, and then I got to know him. We became friends, and he would tell me stories about his childhood and stuff like that, and we would share a lot of stories. And then one day he came to me, and because he was trying to get a job, he was trying an acting job, and he needed a monologue for an audition. And they wanted him to come in and just do a monologue. So he came to me and says, "Can you help me with a monologue?" I said, "Sure. That's what I do. That's what I absolutely can help you." And I said to him, you remember that story you told me about being a young boy and witnessing that fight in front of your apartment building, the two men fighting over the car? Yeah, the parking space. And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Write that." He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "No, write that. It's a great story. Well, that's going to be your monologue." And he went, "Okay." And he wrote it. And then we worked together with the rewrite of it and to make it sharper. And so now he had a monologue. And it was really good. It was really good. And then one day he told me, at the same time that was going on, a key thing about that story is he saw two men almost kill each other, and it didn't bother him at all. He was just intrigued, 9 years old, intrigued. And he told me later, he says, at the same time, there was something else that happened that was really, really upsetting to me. I said, "Really? What?" He says, "Well, the Yankees lost the World Series." And I go, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, I was really upset because I couldn't figure out what Mickey Mantle was going to do now. What is he going to do? They lost." And I said, "That upset you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Write that story." He says, "Why?" I said, "No, write that story. We'll put them together. These two stories go together." He says, "They don't go together." I said, "Write the story. I'll show you how they go together."
Wow.
Now, I had been doing other one-person shows prior to working with Chaz. And so then he that was the beginning of A Bronx Tale, where he would tell me stories, and then we'd write them. We'd hone the story, and we'd slowly piece it together over a period of about 8 or 10 months. It was pieced together, piece by piece by piece.
His testimonial, I mean, I bring that up knowing that if it wasn't for creative genius of Mark Travis, A Bronx Tale would never exist. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that movie, I mean, obviously the one-man show, but the movie is just, I come from an Italian neighborhood, and it just was like so relatable. It's like, oh my God, this movie is great. But when I read that, I was like, wow, nice. That's sweet.
Sweet.
What should a director never do? I know that sounds like a dumb question, but what should a director never do And there might be a lot of things, but what's the one thing that's like, oh my God, what are you doing? You can't do that.
Okay, this may sound strange because it's a very general question,
Right,
Perry. It's a
right.
very general, what should you never do? Never
Number
assume
one
that
thing.
you're
The number one thing
never
not to do.
assume that you are right.
Really?
Yeah. Someone else might be right. In other words, there's a danger. This is one of the talks I gave in one of those interviews I did. There's a danger in directing, the danger of assumption, the danger that assumption that that performance is exactly what I need. The danger, that's the scene I need. That's, in other words, there's a danger of assuming that you know exactly what you need and what's going to work. And that, along with that, comes an arrogance. So when I say, never assume that you're right. When someone says, I got another idea, listen to them. Listen to them. Give them the courtesy of your time, but give yourself the opportunity to listen to another idea. When someone says, maybe the scene, an actor could do that. Maybe what would happen if the scene went this way? What would happen if we played it this way?
Be
Good
flexible.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Consider that. Even try it. Now, this gets back to the whole idea of directing theater, where most of the time is spent rehearsing, trial and error, rehearsing. Try it. Try the scene that way. You may be surprised. Your first reaction may have been, no, it's written this way. It's got to go this way.
No,
Don't do that. Try it the other way. The thing is, you may discover one tiny little thing that's going to help the scene. Or you may discover that you're right. It doesn't work that way. But now you know for sure. It's not just an attitude. It's evidence. You tried it and everybody goes, well, that doesn't work. You go, yeah, you're right. It doesn't work. Now it's not an assumption that it won't work that way. It's a fact. It doesn't work that way. So that's why I say, don't assume that you're always right.
Now, is that part of the so-called Travis technique, or is there many factors? I'm assuming.
Well, there are many factors. There's a book, the third book that I wrote, which is called Film Director's Bag of Tricks. Since you said Travis technique, and the bag of tricks is really a lot of techniques. Yeah, you can call them Travis techniques if you want, but a lot of techniques that I use and that I've learned or that I've developed working with writers and working with actors in order to get, first of all, in order to try to get from them what I want, but more than that, in order to work with them and get them past their resistance or their fears. Now we're actually back to your first question, the difficult actor. Well, the difficult actor is working with some kind of fear. And one big fear that a lot of actors can work with, and I've had this situation, that this film that we're making is going to be so awful, it's going to hurt my career. Boy, try to deal with that one. Meanwhile, you're trying to make the film.
Wow.
But when you say Travis tech, a lot of my techniques are how to work with other artists, especially writers and actors and other artists, also cinematographers and designers, because your job really is to get them to do their best work, to give you the best performance as the character or the best scene or their best writing. That's what you want from them. And your job is to help them be their best, which may be contrary to what you thought you were going to do, but you want them to be working at their best. And how do you do that? And that's what that book is all about. And it is, there are a lot of, quote, tricks. The reason they're called tricks is because my publisher kept calling them. He said, well, that's a good trick. That's a good trick. So we called it the bag of tricks. But it is the whole art and craft of directing, Papamutes. Half of it, if you wanted to be a director, half of it I can teach you, half of it. The other half is also, which is all the skills, how to work with actors, writers, directors, all of that, how to rehearse, blah, 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 all that, how to shoot. The other half is psychology. How well do you work with people? Because it's a hugely collaborative process. And if you don't work well with people, if you can't inspire them to do their best, if you can't if you can't read what's going on with them and help them get past their own fears, you're just not going to be as good a director as you would like to be.
And
So
you
that's
have another
psychology.
book. Yeah, you have another book, directing feature films. Did that come
Yeah,
out prior to, or?
that was their the very first book I wrote was called The Director's Journey.
Okay.
The Director's Journey then, years later, was reissued and rewritten as the directing feature films, the one you're talking about now. So that's really the second edition of Director's Journey. So that came out before Bag of Tricks.
Okay. And where
And
can
there's an
people? I'm assuming Amazon and just Google and.
Amazon. You get Amazon. You can go to my website and find them. My website. You mentioned Travis International Film Institute, TIFI, TIFI, TIFI.us, not .com. That's the website. It's very simple. TIFI.us. You can see all the books there. There's a lot of other stuff you can find there. It's also a good way to get in touch with me. You can go there and write to me immediately through the website, contact me. But so those, and then there's also another book that I'm working on now, which the working title is good. It may change, maybe not. It's called Inside the Travis Technique. And it's the whole package, everything we're talking about and more. The whole package of the Travis Technique, a lot that's not covered in those first two books we just talked about. There's a lot that's not covered. And so I have a lot of work to do to get all of that, but that's what's coming now.
Now I read you. I'm sure you've worked with a lot of different people, but there was also a testimonial from Henry Winkler.
Yes.
I mean, he seems like a great guy. Yeah.
Oh, he is a great guy. We were at Yale together. That's where we first met, Yale Drama School.
Okay.
Yeah. And we worked together there as students, and we've worked together since in LA. Now, he's a great guy.
Now, are you, this is, again, not a dumb question, but I'm assuming you watched a lot of films over the years, just as a film person, just the love of film. So I'm ready for the wheel of segments. It's off camera here. You can't see it. I'm going to spin this wheel, and it's going to land on something. The wheel of segments.
The wheel of segments?
Segments, not segues, segments. I know you were a little
segments.
concerned,
I have no idea what that means, Papamutes.
Well, there's going to be a couple of different segments. Let me spin it. You can't.
Okay.
All right. This one lands on name that actor. All right. I know you were concerned about this, but trust me, it's just a fun thing. I'm going to give you the character. In other words, if I said Rocky, obviously that would be Sylvester Stallone. But that's the gist of it. Are you ready? Are you ready for this challenge?
Yeah, no, I'm nervous because I don't do well with these things, but
it's okay.
I'll play along.
I'll give you more hints than you need. But it's just a fun thing. All right. So in 1978, who played Superman?
78 was Christopher Reeves?
Correct. Now, this is since you're a director's director. Do you know who directed that? I know that might be a little bit of a stretch.
I'm not sure.
Not even from. It's Richard Donner or Donner.
Richard Donner. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Who played Jake LaMotta?
Who played Jake LaMotta? Robert De Niro.
That's correct. And the director.
Scorsese.
There you go. We're on a roll now. Who played Andy Dufresne?
Andy Dufresne.
1994.
I have no idea.
Shawshank Redemption. Andy Dufresne.
Ah, well, okay. Andy Dufresne. That was probably. I can see him. I see him.
I know. You know what? It's not one of those names.
His face is going away. I mean, his name.
It's not one of those names that pops up. I would probably struggle if I didn't have it on my paper right here. But it's Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins, right?
Yes. Directed by a gentleman named Frank
Darabont.
Yes.
Darabont.
Thank you for that. I was struggling with that one. Going back to 72, played Lewis Medlock. This is a tough one. If I gave you the movie, you'd probably get it right away.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I'm going to stop for a second. It's interesting what you're doing just to give me the name of a character. But I've got,
Yes.
and if I don't remember, it's like with Shawshank. I didn't remember the name
I would
of
not
that
know.
character.
I would not know this, but as soon as you hear the movie, you'll know who the actor is. The movie
Okay,
was
what the-
Deliverance.
Or Deliverance. Okay. And the name of the character?
Lewis Medlock.
Lewis
Lewis.
Medlock. Well, it
The
could have
main-
been Burt
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Okay.
Directed by John Borman.
Right.
Not that I know him, but this might be a tough one. Who played Lisa Fremont? 1954, Rear Window.
Grace
Very
Kelly.
famous actress.
Grace Kelly.
That's correct. And obviously the
Hitchcock.
director, Hitchcock. Boom. See? Alex Foley, 1984. Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay. Alex Foley. That's face and no name.
It happens.
Eddie Murphy.
Correct. Directed by
Director. I don't know.
Tony Scott.
Okay.
Just a couple more. This one, Bill the Butcher Cutting, 2002. Gangs
Bill
of
the
New York.
Butcher.
Bill the Butcher Cutting. Gangs of New York is the movie.
Oh, Gangs of New York, which is Scorsese, is probably Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's correct. And last one, Nightmare on Elm Street. Who played Freddy Krueger?
Ooh,
I'd never heard of this guy, but
no, I have no
he's famous.
idea.
He's infamous, and his name was Robert Englund.
That's right. I've seen the name. You know, I have never seen that movie.
I think I saw it once when it first came out because
Yeah.
it was the thing to do. Anyway, oh, you didn't do too bad. There you go.
So
I got
so
something
do I-
else. This is a
did-
little
did I win-
easier.
Did I win a toaster or
You win
waffle
a
iron?
you win a Papamutes T-shirt. It would look great in Hawaii.
I'll become a walking billboard for you.
There you
That's
go.
good.
All right. So this is just to get to know you outside of what we're talking about. This is this or
Okay.
that. Very simple. I'm going to give you two options. You just give me your preference. Are you ready for
My
that?
preference.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Here we go. Beer or whiskey?
Beer.
Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Nice. Dog or cat?
Dog.
Beach or mountains?
Now this is tough because I live right in between both now. I'll say mountains.
All right. Scorsese or Spielberg?
Spielberg.
Interesting. Comedy or drama?
Drama.
Eat home, dine in, or dine out?
Eat home.
Really? History museum or art museum?
Art museum.
Boom. Steak or lobster? I'm getting hungry, all this food.
Lobster.
Nice. Last one. Tarantino or Stanley Kubrick?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go
I
with
agree.
Kubrick.
I
I'm
agree.
gonna go with Kubrick. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. So, before I let you go, I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff.
After you run me through the gauntlet here, okay.
No, you did well. It's fine. I mean, I wouldn't pass my own test, to be honest with you. So, what did you have? What did you had something?
Well, the thing is, my career, which is another lot of stories, has gone very heavily into, well, the director, working with other directors, helping other directors, to the point I'm working with like 5 or 6 directors now, all over the world. I work on different projects. Some of it is, to be really clear, the work that I'm doing with them. There's one who just wants to learn directing, starting out, so we're doing it. There's another one that I'm working with in London now, who I've worked with before. He has a big feature film that he's going to be doing, very big, and I'm working with him. So I'm working with a range of people from the beginners all the way through professionals,
Okay.
all the time. And to me, it's fantastic. I mean, I love directing. I love directing my own films. But in this way, I'm actually working on 4 or 5 or 6 projects at the same time, helping people that I really care about direct their films and raising the level of the film. So I'm feel very blessed that I get to work on so many productions this way. So to your listeners, to those listeners who are serious, and I don't mean they're serious directors yet. I mean they're serious about pursuing directing, or they're serious directors, or they are professional directors now who are curious about maybe listening to this podcast about who is Mark Travis, what is the Travis technique, because they've only gotten a taste of it. If they want to know more, all they have to do is write to me, and I will give them. They write to me and tell them they came from this podcast.
Okay.
I will give them 1/2 hour of my time free online.
Sweet.
We will meet in a consultation. So, and it's really a meeting. It's not working on a project, but we can talk about projects. We can talk about whatever they want. And if someone's thinking, I'd like to meet him and see if maybe he could help me with something or whatever, just write to me. Now, I said before, TIFI.us, that's the website. Go there. There's a lot of information. You can go there and just contact me and it'll send it right to me. I will also give you my email address right now. It's very simple. It is Mark with the W, Mark W. Travis @gmail.com. Just write to me. But if you're listening now and you're going to write to me, mention Papamutes podcast, please. I need to know that because this is where I'm making the offer. I'm not making it a lot of other places. So I have to know that this is legitimate. Come through me.
Okay.
The other thing I will offer you, even if you're just curious, this is to everybody, I will send you a link. I recently did a mini masterclass on the Travis technique. And you write to me, you say, I'd like to have the link to the masterclass. I will send you that link. It's free. You can watch the masterclass. Get more of an idea of who I am and what I'm doing. It's a nice way for you to sort of meet me. I don't meet you that way, but you meet me and you get to know what I'm doing.
Sure.
So that's the offer.
That's great. We'll take it. I was thinking of a question as you were talking.
Yep.
Is the mindset different for a director? I'm assuming it is, but when you get a script that you wrote, that he wrote or she wrote, compared to the studio saying, hey, here's a story, go direct it.
Yeah, it's totally different. And it's you and I, Papamutes, could do another whole podcast just on that topic of even directing something that you wrote. It's a totally different mindset. As you can imagine, a director who wrote the script, now this goes back to the thing that I said before about assumptions. Director who wrote the script will usually feel like, oh, I know exactly how this should work. I wrote it. And there's an arrogance in that. Now, to a certain degree, they probably do know, but that arrogance can get in the way. That shift from writing a script to directing the same script is a huge shift. It's huge. And the sad thing about directing your own material, and I've directed a lot of my own material, directing your own material, you lose the director-writer collaboration because you're one person. Now, if somebody else wrote it, like your second example, and it's brought to you and you're going to direct it, now you have another person involved, that writer. And now you have that collaboration, which can be either good or not good, depends on how it's going, but it is a potential relationship that can enrich the whole project. When you're directing your own material, you don't have that.
Okay.
So it's very, very different.
Makes sense. So what does 2023, the rest of 2023 have for you? I know you mentioned a book.
Working on the book. Working on the book, working on a lot of these projects, like the one in England. So I may go to London for a while. I may go to Georgia, the country of Georgia. There's another project there that I'm working on. That may happen, and there'll be a trip to Europe at some time because I get invited there to teach at different film schools I think I have a unique credit of having taught at 5 different directors guilds around the world. Yeah. And there's the Directors Guild in Germany who was inviting me back. So there are those teaching masterclass opportunities. There's working with clients on project opportunities. And then there's the writing of the book. That's enough to keep me busy.
Great. Well, I'd love to have you on again. I mean, we mentioned it.
I would be happy to do it.
It's great. As long as we can synchronize our times.
We can do it. Well, I'm not going to have any more accidents. So we'll be fine.
But I really appreciate you coming on, Mark.
Okay. Well, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it, Papamutes, and I look forward to the next time. Yeah. And let's think about zeroing in on one sort of juicy aspect of the whole process. That'd be
Okay,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, you could tell me what you like to, talk about as far as, narrowing down one item, and I'm fine with that. I just wanted to get to know you more, starting out, where you
Yeah.
are now, stuff like that. So,
Well, one of the things I'm best known for, and which we haven't touched on at all today, but I'll
Okay.
mention it quickly, is the way I work with actors, the way I, quote, direct actors. And the way I direct actors, I do not direct the actor at all. I direct the character. I have a way of getting past the actor to the character through a process called the interrogation process, which I developed. And it's a
Okay.
way that I can get into a very deep and profound relationship with the character, while the actor that I'm working with basically just as the actor is not involved. They're just
Okay.
there. It's almost like channeling. I'm pulling the character through the actor. And if you go to TIFI.us, and you go to the film, just look up films and click on films, you'll see a film that says rehearsal scene 22.
I saw that. I
And
didn't watch it, but I mean, as in
okay,
research,
yeah.
I saw all your,
Okay,
links.
if you watch that, you'll see how that process works. It's a documentary Elsha and I did a few years ago on that process. But
Okay.
that could take up an entire podcast. I mean, or two or three or four easily, because
Okay.
it's kind of it is revolutionary, and there are a lot of directors who are using these techniques now very, very successfully. So
Okay. Well, great. Awesome. That's it. I
okay,
appreciate you coming
well, it's
on. I hope you
my
can enjoy
pleasure.
the rest of your day there in beautiful, it's Honolulu.
Honolulu. Yep, I'm in Honolulu. Yep,
I'll tell you, it's tough.
right near Waikiki Beach is right over there.
All right.
I can
Great. I believe you.
I walk to it. Yep.
All right. Great. Well, have a good day, Mark. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
There you have it. Mark Travis. Interesting gentleman. Definitely want to have him on again. Talking about directing, directors, actors, contact with Chaz Palminteri, Henry Winkler. I mean, he's been all over, and fascinating stories. Great guy. All right. Until next time, take care.